Vivek Ramaswamy is in hot water. Here's the headline. The headline is, Vivek Ramaswamy is a 9/11 truther. Vivek Ramaswamy says 9/11 was an inside job and the government totally did it. And I saw that headline. I said, well, I've known Vivek for some time now. That doesn't seem like his view. That's a little suspect to me. Let me look a little deeper. Then I realized it's basically a fake hit job from the media. He went on CNN to discuss it. Here's the line of questioning.
A report in The Atlantic that you gave an interview to, you said, quote, I think it is legitimate to say how many federal agents were on the planes that hit the Twin Towers. Maybe the answer is zero. It probably is zero for all I know, right? I have no reason to think it was anything other than zero. But if we're doing a comprehensive assessment of what happened on 9/11, we have a 9/11 commission. Absolutely, there should be an answer the public knows the answer to. Explain to me what you meant there.
This is really, it's funny. I mean, The Atlantic is playing the same game as CNN. It's funny. What I said is, on January 6th, I do believe that there were many federal agents in the field and we deserve to know who they are. On 9/11, what I've said is that the government lied. And this is incontrovertible evidence, Caitlin. The government lied about Saudi Arabia's involvement. There was a Saudi spy named al-Bayoumi who they lied, and the government lied, and the 9/11 Commission lied. We know that because declassified reports in 2021 revealed that al-Bayoumi was indeed. What's that?
Yeah, the report that President Biden declassified. Yes. But your quote here, are you telling me that the quote is wrong
20 years later,
here?
yeah.
But are you telling me that your quote is wrong here because it says...
Do I live in North Korea? I guess this is part of my political naivete. Because when I was a kid, I was taught that the media, the journalists, they exist to speak truth to power. All those other terrible regimes around the world, Russia, China, North Korea, they all just have state propaganda for their media, but not us in America. And then I watch this. And what does this woman say, Caitlin Collins? She says, how dare you question the government about anything? You're a crazy conspiracy theorist. He says, no, wait, hold on. I'm not a crazy conspiracy theorist. I didn't say anything crazy. I'm just pointing out, we know for a fact, now even Joe Biden would admit this, we know that the government did lie about at least the involvement of Saudi Arabia in the intelligence apparatus in Saudi Arabia. And so they suppressed that. So we're just asking some questions about the government. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Aren't we supposed to be skeptical of power? I'm not saying that it was, some like space aliens or I'm not saying it was, George Bush was hijacking an airplane. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying the government lied about Saudi Arabia's involvement. So we should continue to press them on important national matters. Okay, we now know that because they lied. And what does this woman do? She interrupts him. She says, we know they lied because great glorious leader Joe Biden declassified the documents. Our great wonderful glorious leader of the sun, Joe Biden, good wonderful man, he did it, and so now that is the truth. Before he did that, whatever the government previously said was the truth, but now that the Sun King, Kim Il Biden, has declared that Saudi Arabia was somewhat involved, now we can say that now. All hail the glorious leader. And Vivek says, wait, what? Yeah, that's my point. You're making my point, lady. He could have been speaking Korean on there. Wouldn't have looked any different. Now, when you want answers to your problems, you shouldn't deal with our liberal establishment. When you want a quick answer to a problem like, hey, you just ran out of propane, you got to check out Cinch. Right now, go to cinch.com, use code Knowles. Picture the perfect summer night. The warm breeze on your face as you lounge in your favorite chair outside. The grill is sizzling with juicy burgers. And the aroma of the food is irresistible. You're salivating. The drool is dripping down your chin. Now, imagine what this perfect summer night would look like if you went to turn on the grill and your propane tank were empty. That's where our friends at Cinch come in. Cinch is a propane grill tank home delivery service. They deliver propane grill tanks right to your door. Cinch delivers on your schedule, requires no long-term commitment or subscription. Plus, delivery is completely contactless. You don't have to wait around at home. Track the order on the Cinch app from anywhere. Whether you're grilling steaks or lighting up the patio heaters on a cold night, Cinch's propane delivery service ensures that you have the fuel you need to make the most of every moment. Go online to cinch.com or download the Cinch app to order. New customers can get their first tank exchange for just $10 with promo code Knowles, KNWLES. That's cinch.com or download the Cinch app and use promo code Knowles, KNWLES, to get your first tank exchange for just $10. This is a limited time offer. You must live within a Cinch service area to redeem it. Visit cinch.com/offer for details. President Biden landed in Maui. One of the first things he says, he lands there And he makes a joke about the heat.
You guys catch the boots out here? That's a hot ground, man.
Hello to everybody.
It's hot ground, man. An estimated 480 people have been killed at the very lowest estimate, and 850 are missing, and the death toll is almost certainly well above 1,000. Pretty hot ground, huh? Isn't that funny? Better wear some boots. Then he goes on. He's giving a speech, wearing a Hawaiian lei. He's giving a speech. And he has the temerity to compare the fire. We were talking about September 11th earlier in the show. If 1,000 people died in Maui, who knows how many? It could have been more, by the way. If 1,000 people died, that's a third of 9/11. That is a third of what is considered to be the greatest tragedy in American history. And what does Joe Biden do? He compares it to a kitchen fire in his house.
I don't want to compare difficulties, but we have a little sense, Jill and I, what it's like to lose a home. Years ago, now 15 years ago, I was in Washington doing Meet the Press. It was a sunny Sunday, and lightning struck at home on a little lake. It's outside of our home, not a lake, a big pond, and hit a wire and came up underneath our home into the heating ducts, the air conditioning duct. To make a long story short, I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat. But all kidding aside, I watched the firefighters, the way they responded. You know, there's an old expression. I grew up right across the street from a fire hall in Claymont, Delaware.
You couldn't script this. If you hired the best writers in Hollywood, you couldn't script. He walks up there and he says, yeah, I don't want to compare tragedies or whatever, but, one time I had this small kitchen fire that was very quickly contained, but, and I know you guys lost like hundreds and hundreds of children, like whole families burned up, but I almost lost my Corvette. Anyway. What is wrong with this man? I'll tell you exactly what's wrong with it. I know exactly what's wrong with him. I want to be as charitable as I can. I don't just throw bombs. This is an occupational hazard of politics, and Joe Biden is all politics. He is not a living, breathing human being with flesh. He is just a visible form of politics. He doesn't have any thoughts. He doesn't have any beliefs. He doesn't have any principles. He just does whatever he thinks the crowd will need to get him elected. He's been in politics for the majority of his life. He's been at the national level for over 50 years. And Joe Biden, charitably, we would call this empathy. Okay, this is the ability of politicians to feel compassion with their constituents, or at least to perform compassion. This is why when Hillary Clinton went out years ago and started putting on this fake Southern accent, she said, I don't feel no ways tired. I made fun of her, but I felt for her because I don't think she did that consciously. I think that's what politicians do. They just naturally feel some resonance with the people that they're with, and they try to find some common ground. So you could charitably call that empathy. You could uncharitably call it vanity, just making everything about themselves. But here's a good rule for solemn public speeches when you're talking about what appears to be turning out to be one of the greatest tragedies in American history. Delete the first person pronoun, the first person singular pronoun. Just delete it. I don't care. You're giving a wedding toast. You're giving a eulogy. You're giving a political speech after a tragedy. Delete it. Delete. It's not about you, man. In Polybius's good old ancient uncle Polybius, in his take on the cycle of regimes, the different kinds of regimes that can decay into their bad version. You have monarchy. Monarchy can be perfectly fine. There are wonderful monarchies in the history of the world. But then the bad version is tyranny. You've got aristocracy. That's the good version. It literally means rule by the good. And then you've got the bad version. That's oligarchy. Or you've got democracy, which people have had conflicting views on over history. But the bad version of democracy, according to our founding fathers, would be mob rule, Well, what's the difference? What separates those things? Thomas Hobbes, the author of Leviathan, one of the people who inaugurated modern political science, one of the probably the grandfather, we would say, of liberalism, the classical kind and the modern kind and all of it, he would say that there's really no difference between those things. It's just we say one regime is good and the other one is kind of bad. Ours, when we do it, it's good. When other people do it, it's bad. But there's really no substantive difference. But what Polybius would say is, what the ancient Greeks would say is that the good version is when the monarch or the aristocracy or the democracy are legislating for the common good. And the bad version is when the tyrant or the oligarchy or the mob are ruling for self-interest. And when a ruler just talks about I, me, my all the freaking time, you know what kind of regime you're living under. Boy, what a great clip that was, huh? Now, make sure that you ring that bell. Subscribe to the Michael Knowles YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.